Thanks for joining us on the Investors Corner podcast this week. Me, Mike, and Andy. We're going to bring to you some of the current affairs, some of the topics that are being discussed in the media, and I'm going to give you a little bit of a lowdown of what we are going to discuss today. So, Rishi, he has been throwing out all sorts. So, we're going to cover Sunak and exactly what he's been talking about in regards to energy rules, where the government have been guaranteeing that landlords will still be able to repossess their property. Landlord family jailed for 31 years for their behaviour towards tenants. That is going to blow your mind when I talk to you two about that. And we've also got buy-to-let rate of the week, which we will share with you at the end for the 5-year and for the 2-year fixed, which particular banks you can go to and what is the percentage of fee for this particular rate that's the best on the market at the moment, because that might blow your mind as well. So, first of all, Mike, how are you?
All good, thank you.
Got your serious face on?
Got a serious face on, yeah. Been to a conference and everything. So, yeah, we've been learning for the last month.
Andy, how are you?
Good. Always good.
I didn't get the memo that
A
we were wearing.
matchy.
No,
yeah.
Matchy today.
Autumn, winter,
we've
gears come out.
You know, you've dressed up, I've dressed down.
Yeah.
So that's
that is standard stuff.
Been quite smart the last couple of days. I don't know if you noticed actually for meetings, but anyway, we'll move on to Sunak. So he's under attack at the moment by anti-landlord type people that don't like landlords. You know, when you mention on any social media channel anything about some advice for landlords, for property investors, you know, passive income, whatever you want to sort of link the associated caption with, you always get bashed by certain anti-landlord people. But where they're at the moment is around your boiler ban. The boiler ban's been postponed by, I think, a further 10 years or a total of 10 years from now, where obviously that was something that people were looking at. But we've spoke about it before, and it was a bit of a problem that we thought might get more landlords exiting, right? Because it's quite a high cost of what was going to be brought to it. So are we looking at this thinking, well done, Sunak, or are we saying, really, we need to be looking at making landlords and in particular the properties more e-friendly for tenants? Where's the take on that, chaps? Where are we at with it?
My take on it is a shambolic policy from the beginning that was never going to happen. So all it did was throw a load of dust in the air and then settle without any kind of progress. We all know that there's not enough installers, there's not enough producers, the cost hasn't come down well enough, they're not efficient enough, and I'm talking about heat pumps here, they're not efficient enough, they don't work well enough, and no one knows how they work.
Yeah.
So you can't just force people to use them if there's no one to install them or maintain them.
It was 2025, right? That was going to be, or was it 2028?
On new homes, from later on in the decade, and it was just not achievable. So it was always going to get repealed anyway because it was just a harebrained scheme, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, there you go. That's quite direct with Mike's point. What about you, Andy? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's, I agree with Mike. My opinion is that they thought it was a good idea to sort of come out about the heat pumps and offer an incentive to get heat pumps installed. Didn't really take off, no traction on it. And like Mike said, there's not enough installers out there. Cost-wise, is it a massive benefit? No, we haven't seen that it is. So yeah, it's just something to make it more energy efficient. Didn't take off, and now they're changing it because they realised that hasn't taken off.
A good running example is we've got, I think, one property under management with a heat pump.
Yeah,
you had to get a service for it, so you Googled, because we don't have any contracts on our book who do it. I think the first company that came up was Berkshire Heat Pumps.
Yeah,
and you rang them up for a service, and they don't do services on heat pumps. Cheers.
And we called a number of other companies after that, and it was, no, we don't do that. No, we don't do that. No, we can't do that. Well, what's the point?
Yeah, it's not
going
to work.
Find people to do it. It's not going to work, is it?
That doesn't help the tenant who they're trying to help in reality, or the environment as well. But it doesn't help, does it? I mean, what I'm interested to know is, this is all based around kind of energy efficiency, obviously looking after the environment. So the difference of an EPC E rating to a D rating, in context, let's paint that as a picture. what does that probably actually mean? And I know we've had an EPC surveyor on this. You can search for that and check that out. But what does that actually mean for a property? What is that uplift actually looking like?
Firstly, it depends what year the EPC was done.
Yeah.
Just for a little bit of a technicality to throw in there.
Because they last 10 years.
And they changed the goalposts halfway through. So your D might be an E or your E might be a D. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah. I think, it's just based on that, you know, if you had an EPC done 8 years ago and you had a new one done now, because they changed the data points on the EPC, actually it could be higher than what it is.
Or
So,
lower.
Or lower.
Yeah.
Or lower. So yeah, it all depends on, you know, type of property. When the EPC was done, you could do things internally by changing light bulbs, and that will improve it. It's just a bit of a minefield, really, isn't it? It's not very clear.
Yeah, if you're an E, there should be some very cheap improvements and some very expensive improvements that can be made to bring yourself into the next bracket. Like I said, low energy light bulbs, loft insulations, that kind of thing. That can be done for a couple of £100, and then floor insulation for £5,000, photovoltaic panels for 15 to bring it into the top Cs. Yeah.
So if I'm buying a buy-to-let, should I be worried as a buy-to-let landlord if the property is an E? Should I be looking for Ds and Cs to be safe, or should I not really be that fussed?
Right now, I wouldn't be that fussed, but there's a cloud on the horizon that whilst it's been cancelled, it's still in there within the political landscape. That I always thought that EPCs were going to become taxable like council tax because of the way they're banded. It all just seemed too convenient, but it never came through. That was always my theory on it. So I would still look at something that either has the potential to uplift cheaply or something that is reasonably efficient already.
Yeah, it's that it will happen at some point when they look at the EPCs again. Might change things slightly. So again, it depends what your investment goal is. You know, if you're looking for a property 5 years time, look to offload it at that point, probably don't need to worry about it. But if you're looking long-term investment for the next 10, 15, 20 years on that property, maybe something that you want to look at.
Yeah, because you could end up with a couple of thousand, tens of thousands of pounds to get it from the E to the C or the D or whatever it may be, depending on.
I think a lot of landlords are annoyed because a lot of landlords out there were getting ready for this EPC.
It's the uncertainty that annoys people. You said that the government or Rishi Sunak is unpopular with kind of anti-landlord people. I don't think he's particularly popular with landlords either.
No,
I don't think he's got any crowd, to be completely honest, at the moment.
Messed everyone around a little bit with
and that's the thing. You would have had landlords out there that have already started spending thousands of pounds on that property to get it up to that rating, only for it now not to have really mattered at that point. And landlord could have saved thousands of pounds.
We might have had landlords exit off the back of it as well. You know, that are wishing they hadn't exited now because they had a nice interest rate fixed for a period of time, and actually when the tenant moved out they thought, right, I'll exit, took a penalty on their fixed term or something like that, and they didn't need to. Fair point. What about the fact that they've now come out and they're talking about the renters reform bill here, where landlords are getting concerned that they may not be able to get a problematic tenant out? And problematic being the key here is I don't think landlords want to get good tenants out of their property unless they need to because they're selling it. But where landlords are kicking up a bit of a stink at the moment is they're looking at this renters reform bill, as we did in our podcast with Liam when he came in to help us with it, to try and understand it. And what they've come out and said, the government, is we guarantee that landlords will be able to repossess still, because people are reading that renters reform bill a little bit like a lot of people have done and said, well, how am I actually going to get my tenant out if there is a problem? And at the moment, it takes on average 6 months to evict a tenant that's either not paying rent or problematic. So
this is Andy's specialist subject.
Yeah.
Go. 2-minute rant.
Something that I talk about constantly. Look, with the renters reform bill, you can still get repossession of your property, to do with certain things. So again, it depends what type of investor you are. If you've got good tenants in your property, why would you want to bring that tenancy to an end? Well, the reasons is that either you want to sell the property, may want to give it to your child because they're 21, they want to live by their own, so you can still get it back at that point. Antisocial behaviour, you can still get it back at that point. What the government needs to look at is how long is that process going to take? Because all we're seeing at the moment is that court hearings are being delayed if it needs to go to that stage. So you may get tenants that don't move out and it needs to go through to that stage. Using the Section 8 notice, okay, it's a notice, it is what it is, so you can serve it. Hopefully your tenant adheres to it and goes out of the property. So there's still key things there where you can get your property back. You know, it's not a major issue in that regard. And yeah, we've just got to see how it is. But for to say that we guarantee that landlords be able to get their properties back, it's quite a big statement.
When anyone says that, it's a bit
guarantee like, that.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's quite a big statement. But again, right now, the Renters Reform Bill may change the goalposts on what has come out.
Yeah.
So we can't sit here worrying about it. We can't sit here and say, right, whatever we've heard is definitely going to happen, because it hasn't happened yet.
Let's look at the current track record. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
It looks that way, doesn't it?
I mean,
train lines, EPCs.
Yeah, it's just everything
A-levels,
doesn't happen what they say. And with the Renters Reform Bill, Michael Gove came out the other day and said it is definitely going to have its second reading before the King's speech, right? So before November the 7th. He came out today and said that he can't guarantee it.
Yeah, it's most likely not going to.
So, again, until it happens, we just need to carry on as normal.
Yeah.
You know, this Renters Reform Bill, it's going to take 2, 3, 4 years to come into effect. You'll have a grace period after it does come into effect of 12 months. So right now, just carry on as normal and don't worry about it, because more than likely, it will either not happen, it'll go back to square one, or like I said, it'll be 3, 4 years before you even see it.
And when we broke it down with Liam Connolly, what it would appear really in the context of it is the result will be the same, just how you get there is slightly different.
Yeah.
So don't panic, basically.
Yeah.
The result is not likely to be different for you. If you want to evict your tenant for a valid reason, the result will be the same. It's just you go a different way around it. And
I think a lot of people have an issue with it because it feels like they're losing control of their investment.
Yeah.
And as soon as you have that sort of in your head that you've got, 3, 4, 5 properties that are your investment and you're losing slight control of it, it's like, no, I'm out. If I can't control it how I want to control it, I'm not going to be in this sort of game, really, the investment game, property investing game. So
I think the UK has been clickbaited on it.
Absolutely.
Essentially, everyone's read the headline, haven't read the terms of the document, and I think what we should do is have a little bit of a wager. What comes first? Estate agency regulation and qualification, or the landlord bill? Because I've been waiting for about 8 years on agency regulation. I'm pretty sure it was about 2015 they announced it, and they still haven't even announced the basis of it yet. So
we're saying that potentially we don't trust what the government is saying.
We've heard that before.
Yeah, well summed up. Yeah, we've summed that up as that. So kind of until there's a rule in place and it's there, kind of let's just ignore the rumour mill. Right? I don't know why they do a rumour mill with these sort of things where they kind of say, well, this might happen. Cool.
It's life affecting, isn't it? And it shouldn't happen.
It just messes everyone around. And then it's, then it doesn't come to fruition or gets pushed or the goalposts change or, another Prime Minister takes over or whatever it may be and everything tweaks and changes. So, just don't worry about it, landlords, for the time being. But, we will keep you updated on We have a newsletter that goes out every single week. Andy does a blog, for all our landlords and property investors that are on our database to keep them updated with regulatory changes. Once a month, we have obviously our podcast episode of the month that goes out. If you want to be on that list to keep getting updated with things that are going on and changes, then you just let us know and we'll make sure you're on the system, because there is some great blogs that go on there and you can see it on our Google News as well. So moving away from the government, what is the percentage of tenants at the moment not paying rent or in rent arrears for Avocado? Is there any?
Zero.
Okay, so that's one end of the spectrum, which is good tenants, good landlords, good managing agent, everything's clean. That's the norm, right? Not the zero. A lot of agencies won't have zero, they'll have a little bit high. But the norm is that it's pretty calm. It's a good relationship between landlord, tenant and agent, and that's where we'd like it to be. Can't say that in the private renting sector where you've got landlords doing it themselves. Probably a little bit different, I would have thought. But that's the positive. And people say to me when they're thinking of buying a buy-to-let, what's the worst case scenario? Do you guys get that question?
Yes.
What could be worst case scenario? So worst case scenario, I've got a new definition of it based on a news article that I've now read multiple times when reading up on landlord and property investing news. So last week, a landlord family, 3 brothers, I think Bradford direction, have been jailed for 31 years for their behaviour towards tenants that weren't paying rent. So they've ignored the route of how to get them out. One turned up with a meat cleaver.
I was about to say, the mind boggles when you said the word behaviour.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is, and I apologise for... And I'm from Yorkshire, you wouldn't know from the accent, but why is it always Rotherham and Bradford in the news? What is it?
I don't know. But this
What is
story,
kicking off in these towns?
This story blew my mind because
Rogue.
One brother turned up with a meat cleaver. That turned out that they were filming the tenants inside the property as well. Another one turned up with a pole. Unfortunately, one of the tenants, one of the injuries was so bad they had to have their leg amputated because of the attack. That was all based on the tenant not paying rent and refusing to move out. We're not suggesting that this is how you get your tenants out, by the way. I'm just reciting a news article, which for me set the new definition of worst case scenario. And fortunately, the 3 brothers have been jailed for 31 years.
Good.
But I mean, that is mind blowing, right? In terms of the level of conflict there.
It just blows my mind. Why? I just can't get it into my head why you would act like that as a landlord. Where do you think you're going to get to if you act like that? Well, 31 years in prison.
Jail,
that's where you're gonna get to. But look, we've been in the industry for a long time. I've had landlords turn up to properties, take the windows out, take the kitchen units out, take the toilets out, just so their tenants, not with avocado, but yeah, just basically take
in your London days.
In the London days. But yeah, it's like, what are you doing? You're crazy. Because now, if anything, you're the one that's going to be prosecuted.
Yeah.
You're the one that's going to get into trouble. You've completely had the opposite
can we
effect.
stop there? Can we just... I need an anecdote. A landlord went to a house and took the windows out.
Yeah, took all the windows out. Double glazing window, took them all out, got his mate round there, literally took everything out.
So there were no windows.
No, so when the tenants arrived home, there was no windows in the property.
Why?
Just to try and get them out.
Sounds quite
he was fed
bitter.
up with them.
Okay.
I went to
They were late paying rent a few times. They didn't keep the property in great condition. So instead of going down
taking the windows out isn't going to help the house, is it?
What EPC rating would that be? That's got to be low, right? With no windows.
That would be low. But yeah, I've seen some crazy things, dealt with some crazy landlords. I just don't get it. You know, being a landlord, you know what you need to do as a landlord, and that doesn't include taking windows out, making it hard for your tenants, or threatening them, or
there's extremes.
That's harassment, intimidating behaviour. That's like criminal behaviour, essentially.
Yeah.
I mean, there's risks in anything in life, but that's the next level of what I saw. Google that if you want to check it out. Landlord family jail for 31 years. Pop it in Google. You read the article, and there's more detail in it that we won't cover. That's quite horrific. But
what do you do? Like, this is an investment, and you should be reasonably detached from that investment rather than incredibly engaged in the way that you take the win. But what, as someone who has investments, if your share portfolio goes down, like, are you going round Elon Musk's house and demanding he works harder when Tesla shares drop? I don't get it.
Yeah,
Like,
it's a different. I mean, that's a different kettle of fish in terms of humanity, let alone
Yeah.
landlord
Yeah.
context. But I mean, I'm happy to send Elon a tweet if it's still, if it's still called a tweet. I don't know.
Yeah,
Now it's not
don't know
called
what it's
Twitter. I don't
called.
know if it's called an X or something. But yeah, there we go. So that's a news article. Wanted to give buy-to-let of the week. Just to confirm, we're not financial advisors. We're not giving advice. We're just giving you the rate that we've been given as of this morning, which is Thursday, the 5th of October. And the podcast is going out tomorrow. So if you're listening in later weeks and this is a re-recording, then just be aware these rates may not stand. But we want to pass them on. So best deal on the market, this is for a buy-to-let mortgage, at the moment is 4.69%. Now, 4.69%, that stands for the 5-year fixed and for the 2-year fixed. Different lenders, Paragon and Kensington on the 2-year. 7% fee on the 5-year fixed. A 5% fee on the 2-year fixed. 50% loan to value. That's the best deal on the market at the moment.
Arrangement fees, anything on there?
7%. 7% or 5%, yeah. It's quite high, right?
That is quite high.
I mean, I can see what they're doing from a mortgage broker's point of view. There is, they're bringing the rate down to make the affordability calculator work, but making you pay up front in order for that affordability calculator to work. So you're either lumping that back on the loan or paying it like a thumping great big stamp duty bill, the equivalent of, aren't you?
And if you can get a property which stacks up on yield and it's got good enough rent, that means you can still buy with a 25% deposit, 75% loan to value. The rates look like they're about 0.5% higher than that for 75% loan to value. So
I think that's attractive to someone who is convinced they're buying under market value. Because generally, I would look at a 7% fee. First word would be bleeped, and the second word would be off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But if I can find a deal good enough where someone needs to get out, maybe because their mortgage rate has tripled or whatever, and it's no longer affordable or whatever reason they have to sell, if I can get that property reduced by better than 7%, that 7% fee is worth paying.
Mm-hmm.
That's my logic. I don't know whether that's right or wrong.
Yeah. Well, it's a couple of grand depending on, if we look at average house prices around here and say that obviously you're getting half the loan, 7% half the loan, it's going to be a couple of grand, right? It's going to be like 1,500 quid, 2 grand, something like that for sort of 250 grand loan. So it's not like the 7% seems. It
sounds
wow,
like it
but
sounds
when you break it down,
thumping, doesn't it? Yeah,
you've got a buy to let that's coming in, and you've got 20 grand below market value. You kind of swallow that and go, all right, well, that'll work, right? Because you're already 17 and a half grand up from day one based on what it is. It's just not as cheap as it was before. So they're the rates that we're playing with, but they
seem to be improving though,
right?
Buy to let mortgages. We're
well below 5.
We're seeing a lot more people come to the party now with reduced rates and all of that sort of stuff. So it seems positive. It's going in the right direction.
10 working days ago, it was 5 point something. Now it's 4.69. It came down to 4.95 about 7 days ago, and now we're seeing the stuff come under 4.7. So
why do you think we're seeing a lot more people reducing their rates now for buy to lets?
Well, the money in which they're lending to each other is improving. And the main reason why the banks are doing it, I think, is because transactions are way down. Because transactions are way down, they need to take a slice of the pie, so they're having to be competitive to make it work. Or otherwise, they can't hit their targets. They want to lend money. They're not trying to not lend money. They want to make money at banks.
It's the opposite of where we were this time last year when interest rates skied in October last year. Our brokers all said interest rates can go up and they'll stay up for the rest of the year because banks have all hit their targets. They're not bothered. So they're all just sit and wait it out until next year. Now we're at the other end. It's been a reasonably quiet year for the whole residential sales market. It's been a lot less transactions. We know why, because everybody moved 2 years ago when it was stamp duty free. So now we've got a bit of a hangover from it. So the banks have to be competitive in order to continue doing business.
Absolutely. To sum up on this, if anyone's listening and you've got portfolios you're looking to sell, we've actually got a couple of investment buyers at the moment that are quite interested in acquiring portfolios, or if there's developers out there that have got small blocks that they're looking to build out and potentially sell off plan. So just a little plug for some of our clients that we're working with. If you've got portfolios you're looking to shift, please let us know. We might be able to do something on those, anywhere from kind of 4 or 5 units upwards. And if you are thinking now's the time to cash in on your portfolio, please speak to us and we can potentially do some off-market stuff for you there. So get in contact. Same applies for developers on blocks as well. Probably more likely to be off plan on a small block of flats, something like 6, 8, 10, 12 units, maybe up to 15, depending on where it's positioned in the country. But do let us know. Next week, we'll be back, obviously, as well. If you haven't subscribed, please do. It means you get the notification. It helps us as well improve the guest quality that we get on. Hopefully, this current affairs report has been a good one for people to listen to. We have bounced around on topics today, haven't we?
Yeah.
I didn't know the word meat cleaver was going to come out. I've got to be honest.
Yeah, meat cleaver.
I'm here for
double
it.
glazing windows out of the property.
Toilets removed.
Yeah.
And Sunak under attack.
Yeah.
So,
Nice.
yeah, we'll bring everything to you. Thanks again for watching, listening, depending on what platform you're on. And if you want to get in contact with us, reach out anytime.